Program's long enough, but
Well,
certainly I'll do my best.
okay.
Well, as you mentioned, you mentioned sort of this quote-unquote stealth unionization. What happened is, and it's a movement that's going on all over the country, by the way. There are about 14 other states, I believe, maybe 15, that have daycare owners who are now members of the union. And what happened was, in Michigan, AFSCME and the UAW teamed up to form a union. Child Care Providers Together Michigan. And as the name implies, it's child care providers. It's child care workers, people who work out of home-based businesses. I think that's key.
And well, isn't the castle your home and coming right into your home now?
Yep, absolutely. But the problem is that the union did not have a quote-unquote employer to unionize against, because these are basically business owners. They are the employers themselves. The parents hire and fire them. It's not the state, it's not DHS. So the unions figured out a way to, and perhaps partnering up with the administration, figured out a way to come up with a so-called employer. What they did, as you mentioned, it was the DHS and Mott Community College in Flint united under what is legal, an interlocal agreement. That is something that's usually used on the local level. Say a township and a county want to create an interlocal agreement in order to share maybe a sheriff's deputy. Or if services such as a sewer service that may be stretched through a couple of different municipalities.
Right.
That's what interlocal agreements were really created for.
Right.
But one was created, Mott Community College and DHS. It is called the Michigan Home-Based Child Care Council. And therefore, the Child Care Providers Together Michigan Union organized a collective bargaining agreement with the Michigan Home-Based Child Care Council. So, how the union gets its dues, as you touched on, but I want to explain it because I think people need to understand where this is coming from. If you're a daycare owner and you take care of 6 children, one of those children's parents qualify for low-income subsidies.
Right.
So they can go to work or school or whatever. The union dues, 1.15% is taken out of that subsidy check. Therefore, that makes the provider a union member. Even though the other 5 kids aren't part of this program, it's that one child and only that little amount. But what it all adds up to, and we have the documents now that show it was 2.6, close to $2.7 million in 2009, went from the subsidy payments to providers to the daycare union. And not to go into too much detail, there are about between 40 and 70,000 of these home daycare providers in the state of Michigan. So therefore, that's how come the amount was close to $2.7 million. Well, the way the election was had taken place for the union to be certified, it went through Merck. Everything was done as far as we know. All the I's were dotted, all the T's were crossed. However, out of those 40,000, only 6,000 or so voted in it.
Exactly.
And only 5,900 or somewhere in that neighborhood voted for the union. Many of the other people did not even know a vote had taken place. They did not know they were union members, as you mentioned, until money started coming out of their subsidy check. Enter the Mackinac Center and the Mackinac Center Legal Foundation. We represented 3 daycare providers in the state of Michigan who did not want to be a part of the union. They are business owners. They know that if anybody is the employer, it's either them because they filed 1099s.
Sure.
They get 1099s, not W-2s. Therefore, that puts them in an independent contractor status.
Yeah.
Therefore, there's no defined employer, even though the Michigan Home-Based Child Care Council set up, and they feel it is their home. It is their territory. It is where they run their business. No union should cross that threshold. Therefore, we sued on their behalf. The last court action that was taken, we filed with the Court of Appeals. Under a writ of mandamus, which was basically, we asked the DHS to just stop withholding union dues. And we were dismissed very curtly. And then we filed a motion for reconsideration, again dismissed very curtly. And right now, things are in the works to take to the Michigan Supreme Court. However, National Right to Work has now gotten involved. We've gotten a lot of media attention. I've made several videos. If your viewers want to go to mackinac.org and take a look at some of the videos that I've done, we've done a lot of investigating, unearthed a lot of documents that show the appearance of a shady deal is quite evident. And the last video I did really highlighted, I think, what gets down to the basic core of it. As I mentioned, it was a takeoff on the children's book, Are You My Employer? Or Are You My Mother? I changed it into Are You My Employer? Where I basically set out to find out who is the employer. And we have a lot of people denying being the employer. The DHS says on its website that these providers are not to consider themselves, or the state, their employer, the DHS. The Michigan Home-Based Child Care Council told one of these providers in an email flat out, we are not your employer. So it comes down to that issue, first of all, that there is no clear-cut employer, so how can you have a union? But another issue, when we talk about how this interlocal agreement was formed and how this all took place without the legislature being involved at all. And these are, the subsidy programs do come through the legislature. They have to be appropriated. But it was done, this whole unionization, the home health care and the child care providers were done by completely subverting the power of the legislature.
Well, in some ways it even gets worse because the chair of the Senate Human Services Subcommittee that does the appropriating for this department has been totally ignored. He stopped the funding, appropriation, and they went around and found another way of continuing this program. Now we have legislation pending. We hope that our colleagues in the House, the Democrats, are going to support us. It's a union issue, I understand that. We're not opposed to unions. Exactly. I am not. I can categorically say that. I was a member of the MEA for 17 years in Novi. That is not the issue. The issue here is forced unionization against people's will, private individuals who never really got to give their yay or nay to this. And let me wrap this up as we started today. I started out by talking about Michigan's overall image. We're a state in transition. We are perceived as the 48th lowest in terms of overall ranking of being business friendly. And here comes this effort to unionize people, private employees, right in their very homes. This is not going to help the overall perception of Michigan. So we are working on all fronts. I wish we could get to the educational front today. I will next month, and I want to assure all my teacher friends out there that while we're all sharing in this downturn in our economy and have to make sacrifices, I am working to ensure that it is fair to all concerned, and that we just don't target specific populations or make it a penalty. For example, if you don't retire, I'd hate to see all these experienced, mature teachers forced out. So we still have a lot more to do.
Absolutely.
And I will see you all next month. Kathy, thank you for being
thank you so much, Senator.
My friend and our guest.
Absolutely.
Thank you.